Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's training on the wywy SearchSync product. We're going to be talking about syncing TV and paid search campaigns. Before we get started, I will be your presenter today, Christopher Wendels. I head up product here at wywy. And just to let you know, the presentation will be for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to have a Q&A part after that, 15 minutes. There are quite a few of you attending, so all participants are muted. If you would like to ask a question, please do post it in the chat, and we'll get to that in the Q&A part. So, what are we going to talk about today? We have we're going to talk about why you want to do SearchSync. We're going to start off with the basics. And then we're going to move on to what you need to think about before setting up a sync campaign. And moving on to actually what you need to do to implement this correctly. And after that, also talking about reporting, what can you do to compare sync campaigns to non-sync campaigns, and also what kind of health checks and optimization can you do running forward. And after that, we'll move to the Q&A part, as I said. So why do you want to use SearchSync? Basically, TV viewing has changed in the last couple of years. Majority of TV viewers are also smartphone users, and they're using their mobile device as a second screen. This is primarily mobile smartphone devices, but to a large extent also desktops, and a fair bit of laptops are used also. But it's primarily smartphone driven. And especially during TV ad breaks is when there is the most activity. And this activity sort of translates to looking up information on what they are seeing, or the users are seeing on TV. And this isn't limited to looking up interesting information about the show or checking what's coming up next, but a lot of users interact with the product, services, and brands shown during commercial breaks. So imagine that you spent a lot of money on a TV ad. You're running a TV campaign, and what's at the top of the search listing is one of your competitors. So we'll take the example we have here, Charles Schwab running a campaign, wealth management on TV, buying expensive TV airtime, and if you would have a TV-inspired user search on Google for wealth management, we would have Charles Schwab somewhere in the organic listings, not even running a paid campaign. And this is a huge opportunity for Charles Schwab competitors, because we do know that searches or TV ads drive searches online for the relevant keywords. And Charles Schwab, not opting to partake in the battle for this keyword, are actually helping to drive traffic to competitor sites through their TV ad. So, what can we do to change this? Well, before we go to what we can do, we need to think about what we want to do. What are the goals? So before we set up a sync campaign, we need to think about what we want to achieve when we do that. So most commonly, we'll have campaigns driven by conversions. We want to have direct response. We want to see when my TV ad airs, I want people to come buy my product. That is my ultimate goal. A lot of the time, however, TV ads are not tailored to direct response. Either it's the kind of product that takes a lot of time or a lot of research from the user's end. So TV users are usually in the beginning of the customer journey, which means they may not convert, depending on what kind of product you're selling. So in that case, a top position and high CTR strategy would work best to say, all right, I'm not as interested in the conversions right now because they don't make sense for the campaign. What I want is to make sure that I am in the top position and I want to have a high click-through rate. Generally, if you have a conversion type campaign or a top position high CTR campaign, your goals will align. Where it changes is for text ad and branding. So if I want to run a campaign that is specific for a tailored message, so I'm not maybe interested in getting clicks, I'm just interested in having my ad prominently placed whenever someone searches following a TV ad. So to change my message to that was displayed in the TV ad. And we'll get into some of this down the road. So you also need to choose not only looking at the goals, what do I want to achieve. You need to figure out, okay, how am I going to get there? What do I want? What do I want to use to reach that goal? So generally, we can say that we have three different types of strategies. I'll go through them individually in a minute, but you can either use your own TV ads, you can use complementary TV ad airings, or you can even use your competitors' TV ad airings. So what do we mean by that? Well, your own TV ads, pretty straightforward. So if you or a client are running ads on TV and you want to make sure that that you get the most out of that. In the example here, we have Weight Watchers running a TV ad. Weight Watchers generally, for the keyword weight loss, are not in a top position. I think they run something like 2 or 3 generally, which means on mobile devices they're below the fold. They're not even on the top of the page in the visible part. And this is an opportunity to say, okay, this keyword doesn't really perform as well. It hasn't justified on its own merit a position at the top because the competitive landscape is too expensive. But in conjunction with the TV ad, where we're already spending millions, we want to make sure that we take a couple of hundred or a couple of $1,000 and we put that toward the TV, or we put that toward the search campaign to support the TV buy. And then landing in a top position. Another example, when we talk about complementary TV ad airings. So when we talk about complementary TV ads, we talk about ads that are not my own, but that are also not of my competitor. The example we have here is Walmart, who sell Samsung TVs, and they're just generally not in the top listing. They're also running on something like position 3 to 4, generally, at least when we looked at this. So to say, well, Samsung are running a campaign on TV, so they're spending money and they're driving searches, which means that people who search right after the ad have a specific interest in at least researching or purchasing a Samsung TV. So it's about capturing that moment in time when the users go online. And in this case, then Walmart would say, okay, for that specific point in time, I want to make sure I'm in a top position. And similarly, when we talk about competitor TV ad airings, it's basically doing the reverse of your own TV ad airings. You want to say, okay, I want to make sure that when my competitors air, I want to be in the top position for that extra branding effect. I want to put myself out there. I want to put myself on top, either to prevent them from holding and owning that top position to support their own TV buy, or to drive traffic to my own site. This is a strategy that varies depending on what competitor is it, how strong is their brand. There's a lot of factors that come into play. So if you're interested in setting up a campaign like this, our campaign management team will obviously be happy to support you through that. But to take the example here, we have the generic keyword electric car. The Prius ad is airing, and Nissan are conquesting themselves to the top position for that airing. So we want to select relevant keywords when we're doing this. And that's probably after making sure that your goals are aligned, that you know what you're spending money on, and you've selected a strategy, you know how you want to get there. When we move on to implementation, we need to talk about what are the right keywords to use for a sync campaign versus a non-sync campaign. So do we have the example here, like weight loss is a great keyword for Weight Watchers because it's relatively generic. Weight Watchers are not in a top position, they're below the fold, so we can actually have significant impact. And the more generic the terms, the better this works, because we're talking about syncing with TV airings. And even if you have a lot of airings, either for your own commercials or for that of competitors that you can sync to, the general sync time is around something like 10%, give or take, for a full airing schedule. It can be a lot lower also. Rare cases it could even be higher, but that means it's a really intensive business. So, and because we're so limited in the time that people search, we're also going to be limiting volume. So keywords that have something like 1,000 searches a day, probably going to see something like 10 impressions or 20 impressions for the sync campaign, depending on how much TV drives that specific keyword. Keywords, to stick with the weight loss example, if we had the broad match keyword, weight loss is great because it drives a lot of traffic for us. Something like free online weight loss guide or comparison or review in an exact match will be a lot less likely to succeed. So what to think about when selecting keywords? What signifies a good keyword? Well, like I said, generic is good. High search volume is good because it quickly delivers data that you can take action on. And in terms of what keywords specifically to choose, this is different from each client to each vertical. So it's very hard to say, but there are some good rules to use. The brand or the product is promoted in the TV ad, then those keywords that are related to those brands or to those products make sense. I want to stick to broad or phrase match, ideally with a good founded or a well-founded negative keyword list. Also, exact match, it's absolutely fine to use it, especially if we're talking about very high search volume. But again, it can be hard if you have a non-exhaustive exact match list. And also, something to bear in mind, if the keywords are already running in the account, they shouldn't be running in a top position. So the impact of the SearchSync campaign is very limited if you already have your ad running in a top position. Brand keywords, for example, if it's your own brand, you're probably going to be in position 1 already. Setting up a sync campaign for that is not really going to deliver very high results unless, of course, it's the specific sort of you have the specific goal of changing your branded message, so delivering a different ad text for that time. You could do that, but it's going to increase the price significantly that you need to pay due to reasons of history that I'll get into in a minute. So to set up a sync campaign, you want to access your Google AdWords client account, or if you're more comfortable using the AdWords editor, that's absolutely fine. If you're using management tools, accessing the API, that is also a valid way to go. The important thing is actually, having the access and setting up the campaigns. The next thing you want to do is to figure out, all right, the best way to get started with this. There's a couple of different approaches. We usually say to clients who are starting out, get a campaign that you're running already and duplicate it. Because there is the least potential to mess it up. Spoken carefully. The duplicated campaign, and the reason we recommend this is because it's going to be easier for you to do reporting. You can compare one campaign to the other. The contents of the campaign is going to be the same, etc., and so forth. You can also duplicate ad groups and collect them in one campaign, or you can create a completely new campaign, but you would need to duplicate the contents. And the reason we say duplicate the contents is it's very important that you focus on having the same keyword and the same ad text, so the same copy, with the same landing page, due to the way that ad rank is calculated. So when we talk about ads quality, when we talk about keyword quality, that is a big factor in determining the end price of an auction. So having the same ad text and the same keyword being triggered means that their ad rank is calculated in the same way, and the ads quality is maintained. So if you were to set up a synced campaign and use different ad text that you've never used before, if it's a copy that's specific to the TV ad that's just airing, you are going to start with very low scores because you have no history. For a normal campaign, that would rectify itself in 1 or 2 days, but for a sync campaign, it'll take significantly longer over time. In terms of budget, not so much, but since you want to be and maintain a top position, so you're going to be spending more to achieve that goal, it can be very expensive if you start changing the ad text. Okay, so I'm just going to stick with the example. We've duplicated the relevant existing AdWords campaign, and we're setting it in a paused state. What we want to do next is we want to update the selected sync campaign depending on a few different factors. So what's my use case? What keywords do I want shown and which are irrelevant? The irrelevant keywords, they can just be paused, or even ad groups can be paused. Then the budgets, how much are we willing to bid to get to that top position or to reach our goal? For the sync campaign, to trump the original campaign, we do need to significantly increase the bid. Generally, we recommend starting out somewhere around a 30% bid increase. If you're not interested in running it on desktop, but you only want to focus on the mobile devices, mobile bid adjustment is a great way to do that. So actually setting a lower keyword level bid than the original campaign, but duplicating doubling the mobile bid adjustment, for example, is a way to go. So that way you're going to have a higher bid on mobile devices, and you're going to deliver the sync campaign, but the normal campaign will continue to run on desktop. So in terms of budget, how much to spend, how much budget to allocate, we generally also say figure a 10% of what you're spending already for the keywords that you select. If you do run into that budget goal, you can always increase it, but that's sort of a good way to start. And then there's another important factor, and that is geography. So what kind of an airing area are we talking about? So for example, Germany, France, Italy, we have national broadcasters, and we want to make sure that we're only targeting users within borders of the country that we're delivering to. So maybe for Germany, we're also targeting Austria and Switzerland. We want to make sure we're not targeting them, and so forth. The US is a special case because the US has an East Coast feed and a West Coast feed. So you would set up one campaign for the East Coast and one campaign for the West Coast because they air with a 3-hour delay. All right, so how do we synchronize campaigns? Now we have everything set up. We've selected our goals. We know what strategy we want to use. We've set up our sync campaign. It's ready to go in our AdWords account. What happens next? So what happens is we detect the TV ad in real time. And when we detect the TV ad, we also automatically, via the Google API or the Google AdWords API, we update the user status of the campaign from paused, which is what you would set it to when you're setting up the campaign, and we change it to enabled. So we start trafficking the campaign that way. And then after the delivery window has passed, we revert it back into a paused state. So to do this, you would need a business relationship with us. We would take the TV commercials either provided by you. We also have a service where we can provide them, and we add those to our monitoring database. Our campaign management team will then make sure that the correct commercials are in the system, that they're up and running, that we're detecting them correctly, and we will also map those to the specific campaigns that you've selected. And you can also set the delivery window. Generally, we say at least 2 minutes from the broadcast start, because we have TV users. They're going to be in front of the TV, but they're not going to have their phones maybe in their hand, so there is a little bit of a delay. This is different when we're talking about syncing display campaigns, but for search, there is a delay because the user needs to actually start searching. And then it depends what kind of a delivery you want to use. We recommend something like 5 minutes. That should, for most keywords, cover about 90% of TV-inspired clicks from the data that we've been able to collect and evaluate. 3 minutes gets you something like 80%. So anywhere above that, so going above 5 minutes, is still absolutely possible. It is something that we recommend trying. We can change the delivery window from at any point in time during the campaign, but somewhere around 3 to 5 minutes has been the sweet spot for most campaigns so far. So you want to compare the sync campaign to the non-sync campaign. You want to make sure that you're reaching your goals, that you're not spending too much, or that you're spending enough. If you want to review sort of the whole campaign, if you want to review at the keyword level, is no different really from comparing one campaign to another. The only difference is that you generally, probably, unless you did a distributed geography targeting, you wouldn't be comparing at the keyword level, which is something that we do recommend doing. So when we talk about health checks and optimizing campaigns, we absolutely recommend doing this by hand and doing it daily to make sure that the campaign is running as it should, because we're generally talking about significantly increased bids. You're spending more money, and you want to keep an eye on it. So the easiest way to do just a cursory check to make sure that we are where we want to be is logging in to the AdWords front end and bringing up the campaigns side by side, either by filtering for the campaign name or selecting them in two different windows, whatever you're most comfortable doing. You could, of course, pull a client report for the campaigns, and then throw them into sort of export that, throw it into Excel, run it in a pivot table, and look at it that way. But if you're not comfortable working in that, or operating in that manner, just looking at the front end for 1 or 2 minutes is enough to sort of get a good idea of are we going in the right direction or not? Do I need to investigate further? So we have a sync campaign and we have a non-sync campaign. We've also segmented in the different devices that we're accessing or that we're currently searching, and we've selected the 2 campaigns. We see there's a difference in budget. We can also straight off the bat see that, okay, we have impressions, we're delivering, so that's a good sign. One important indicator is the average position. So if you're improving your average position, this is a good thing. This is what we want. And also, another important indicator is the click-through rate. Okay, it should be higher for the sync campaign. If it's lower, this tells us you may have keywords in there that are not performing well for whatever reason. Maybe you thought they would be TV inspired, but actually they're not. If the sync window or the delivery window is too long, maybe you're capturing a lot of searchers who really aren't interested in the product, who didn't see the TV ad. So these are sort of your 2 main tools: looking at the average position and saying, am I rising to a much better position? Am I getting a better delivery rate? And then also checking the response and the click-through rate. Is that going up? Yes or no? So looking at conversions, and this is of course only true if you are measuring conversions in your account and you do have a conversion goal-oriented strategy. Generally, we recommend looking at, okay, what is the conversion rate? Is it higher? Is it lower? In some cases, and this sort of depends on your strategy, the conversion rate doesn't necessarily have to be higher. Also, the cost per conversion doesn't necessarily have to be lower, even if the campaign is, or for the campaign to be deemed a success. Because what we see for a lot of clients is that the TV-inspired searches are coming in at the start of the customer journey, sort of the upper end of the conversion funnel, and especially if it's a product where it takes subsequent visits generally before conversion takes place, then the actual sync campaign wouldn't be attributed with the conversion, but maybe another campaign further down the line, maybe even an organic or direct URL input led to a conversion that we've then. Or what also happens is frequently customers won't convert on their mobile device where they actually search for the product, but they'll return from a desktop to complete the transaction, which would mean, and this is different depending on what your business model is or what the client's business model is. So you just want to make sure that when you're looking at the data, a higher conversion rate is good, but a lower conversion rate doesn't necessarily mean that the campaign isn't performing. You would need to look at the analytics data or look at some attribution scores to be able to say that. And then finally, it's important to note the number of conversions that come in for whatever date range that you have selected does have an impact, and it does make a difference. So if we generally say if you have less than 50 conversions, the data may not be solid. You may not be statistically significant for you to say, all right, this is working well or this is not working well. Okay, so that's running through our SearchSync training.